My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Samas and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there, and welcome to WTA Weekly. And, well, I am joined by the man who's usually behind the scenes, but has deigned to make an appearance on camera, is the one and only John Silk. John, how are you doing?
Good. I'm just fixing my mic, but you can hear me okay right now, yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you. Don't worry. This is nowhere near the least professional we've ever sounded, John. We'll have to see. Obviously, it depends on how many beers you have consumed at this point. But anyway, so whilst John's fixed his mic, we may as well jump to the headline from this weekend, which is Marketa Vondrousova has won Berlin. She is the Berlin Open champion, joining the esteemed ranks of players such as Ludmila Samsonova, Ons Jabeur, Jessica Pegula, of course, last year. And yeah, John, I think my initial thought on seeing this result was, I don't think we can say that Marketa Vondrousova winning Wimbledon in 23 was a fluke anymore.
Right. That was a theme. I think it was mentioned maybe even during the commentary I was watching, and certainly some of the commentary on social media as well, is that we can sort of put that probably a myth really to bed. I did reflect on the Wimbledon final a little bit, and it's slightly differently to 2023, in that I, like many, although I'm not sure you fall into this category, did sort of feel as though Jabeur not turning up was the overriding feeling. But now she's won 3 titles, Marketa Vondrousova. 2 have been on grass, and one of them has been Wimbledon. So she's won 3 titles in her career, and one of them was a slam. I wonder if in how many people, by the way, in women's tennis at least, have just won 1 title, and that 1 title was a slam. Not too many, I would have thought, and not too many have 1 out of 3 as Marketa Vondrousova does. But yeah, regarding her now as a grass court player, because that's what it was, wasn't it, in 2023? It was the fact that she had, I think, 0 pedigree on grass. Am I right, going into that tournament?
Yeah, she literally won like 1, maybe 2 matches. I will say she did make the quarterfinals in Berlin that year, and I don't think that raised enough eyebrows, but maybe that was something that we should have paid attention to at the time. I know what you mean by, I think the big story was Ons Jabeur, was very nervous in that final. But then we've kind of seen since that Vondrousova has this ability to annoy her and kind of bring Jabeur into awkward court positions, not on her terms. So as she also did Sabalenka, by the way, and like she beat Sabalenka this week in Berlin, and she could have played Sabalenka in that Wimbledon final had Jabeur, not played one of the amazing matches of the year in beating Arena at that point. So I don't think it. I think that also kind of almost proves the point that like Marketa could have won Wimbledon whoever she played that season. And like thinking about the way her game is, like, of course it works on grass because she has such variety. She keeps the ball low. Wimbledon doesn't bounce as low as other grass courts now, but she's got the slice, she's got the volleys, she's a great doubles player. Like when we were watching it back, of course it works on grass, and it just obviously had taken some time to click, or injuries had got in the way, or whatever. But yeah, I think for me that it kind of, I think I will join in the narrative of like, okay, let's reassess where Vondrousova is at, and yeah, maybe she's not a clay court player; she's a grass court player.
When she fell to the grass upon winning the title, as is often the case, but probably less so for a lot of players who are accustomed to winning titles. I immediately thought about the injuries that she's been through, since 2023, and including in the final, by the way. She slipped because, of course, there was an opponent in the final, which we'll come to, and she had her chances. And when she was broken at what appeared to be a really important moment in the first set, and what appeared to be decisive regarding at least the first set, she then struggled for probably the next game or so. And I started to wonder if that she was struggling a bit with her back. And I'm not sure about the specific injury she's had this year, but it does feel like 2 years of stop-start tennis where wasn't quite sure if she was ever going to regain the form that she showed in that Wimbledon run of 2023. And that was the first thing that went through my mind. And I wonder if it was going through her mind as she hit the deck.
Yeah, true. I mean, hopefully, she finished off the match.
I'm not saying that, but I mean, when she hits the deck upon winning the title, though, she then has 2 hours of fairly healthy tennis, if you like. It just seemed to disrupt her a bit in the first set towards the end of it. She sort of slipped as she tried to change direction, and it was the exact same moment that she was broken in the first set. But for the next 2 hours, she was fine. I'm just thinking that when she celebrates, and I'm thinking the first thing she's thinking of is all of that hard work to get back on the tennis court over the last 18 months has been worth it.
Absolutely. And look, it paid off because now she's back in the top 100 because she was projected to fall quite a way out of it. And
lowest ranked Berlin winner in history, I think.
Yeah, not that it's got a long history, but not unless you're going to include the period where it was a clay court or tier 1
grass
event.
court, I think. That's what I saw. I'm guessing it was probably from the grass court era. I'm not sure. But
yeah, exactly. So and certainly in this event, like Berlin obviously has had some crazy results anyway. Like we had Ludmila Samsonova winning it in 2021, then needing a wild card to play Wimbledon and getting into the 4th round.
I don't think it's been a great indicator though for Wimbledon, right? It's sort of
like the closest we've had in terms of like title, people winning it, going on to do well. On Jabeur winning it, I think she won it in 22. It was 22 or 23, and then she obviously reached the final that season. So that was maybe one indicator that maybe that would be a sign that is a good indicator of form. Vondrousova making the quarters in 2023 when she won it. If you're not looking at the title winners, you look at people who've gone deep, got a couple of match wins in. Then maybe you're looking at that. Yeah, you got Kvitova in 23. That's the name I couldn't remember.
So reverse the close 2022.
Yeah. Other than them, you're right. Like it's not been necessarily amazing. Like Rebecca played it in last year, and she looked like she was going to win the title up until Barbora Krejcikova suddenly popped out of nowhere.
But didn't she go out first round in Berlin? I think last year. Certainly, if not first round, very, very, very early, Rebecca.
Oh, Rebecca in 24. I've got the wrong year, maybe. No,
one of the first days. I'm just going to check because I remember being there and
maybe she was. Maybe she went out and mixing up with Sabalenka, who did make quarters.
Yeah. No, Sabalenka made the quarters, and the quarters last year were on the Saturday because there was so much rain. I think the previous couple of days, so I think pretty much Sabalenka was due to play back-to-back matches on the Saturday, but actually pulled up with a shoulder injury. I think maybe one game in, I'm going to say, into her quarterfinal, and I thought she'd pulled out of that match precautionary, because she thought, what, I've got a tweaking shoulder. There's no way I'm going to get through possibly one match, never mind 2 matches in one day plus a potential final the next day. So I just thought, but of course I was completely wrong because within days she was withdrawn from Wimbledon altogether. But anyway, we'll come to Sabalenka in a bigger way in a moment. But
yes, Sabalenka is worth mentioning there. Berlin, and I have heard that actually it seems to be a theme that a lot of these grass court warm ups, the ball does bounce lower than Wimbledon. They are more traditional.
Just a quick thing, I'm just looking at her back in the last year. She might have made the quarters. You might be right, but
I forgot about that.
Anyway,
Looking at Rebecca, yeah. But you're right. Like it's not necessarily like good. Okay, this person's won this, then therefore they've got the momentum. That being said, as we come back to maybe the title question that we put on the show, which is Marketa Vondrousova a Wimbledon title candidate? And I would argue yes. Not necessarily just because she's won Berlin, although that grass court confidence is going to help. As I said, it helped Jabeur in the past. I think Vondrousova, as a former Wimbledon champion, that's going to make a big difference. And we've seen time and again that people who've won Wimbledon before tend to have big impacts on the draw when they're sort of fit and healthy. Obviously, Vondrousova wasn't last year, which is why she went out first round. But Rebecca has followed up her title success in 22 with a quarterfinal and a semi-final. So in my mind, Vondrousova is a dangerous unseeded player out there who, I think she has the game to frustrate people on grass, probably frustrate the best players on grass. I'm going to go with why not? But then that kind of tells you something about the grass court field at the moment, because over the last sort of 2 decades, really, the Wimbledon still lives in the shadow of the Williams sisters, in that it was one or both of them in a final for 20, 25 years. And they brought 20. And when they didn't, there was usually some kind of vacuum and a little bit of more competition for who was going to get it. And now they're both gone, unless Venus comes back. They are the field very much feels like there's still that power vacuum at Wimbledon at the moment. And there are players with a lot of potential with their games. But right now, I've been thinking about who the title contenders are, and there are at least 20 players that you wouldn't be surprised by winning it, and Vondrousova is one of them.
Yeah, I see it, and of course you're going to elaborate a bit more later on this week with your power rankings. So maybe I can elaborate even more, if that makes sense. I looked down the world because it came up in a conversation, I'm going to say on Saturday during the semi-final, that Vondrousova, who did she beat in the semis? Did she beat Sabalenka in the semis? Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
So during the watch along for that, there was some talk about, where does Marketa Vondrousova sort of rate? And I said, well, give me 15, 20 minutes. This is maybe at the beginning of the second set, because I think I just quickly jotted down where I thought Vondrousova sort of was in the rankings. But over the next 15, 20 minutes, she shot up the power rankings that I'd quickly jotted down. And actually, then I went through the world rankings, and I went down to 61 in the world. Now, that was 61, by the way, in last week's rankings. Let me see where she ranks right now. I won't tell you who that player was at 61 just yet. But I went down, at least that was on Saturday, and it's taken a while to load the rankings later on my page. So, but that was on Jabeur. I went all the way down to, which is wild, really, to think about, the 10 most likely people to win a Grand Slam based on also. So she's now 59, by the way, on Jabeur. And I think going past her, you couldn't really include, I'm just going quickly. I mean, Greet Minnen at 70. Well, Marketa Vondrousova at 73, by the way, as her current ranking. So that's where you'd go down to. Now, listen, Vondrousova could be anywhere. I think you'd have to have her in your 10, and it's purely up to you, anywhere between 3 and 10. And that is wild to go down to 73 in the world to start considering players for your power rankings. Normally, you'd be looking at the top 20 and going, okay, I guess the number 8 in the world doesn't have such great pedigree on this surface, so maybe they go down to number 12, and the number 13 in the world, has won a couple of tournaments on this surface or won the Slam in the past, so they've got some pedigree even if they're not doing great this year. All those sort of factors, and you're pulling those sort of top 20 around, and you've got your top 10, and people will disagree, and you've got your honorable mentions and so on and so forth. Maybe 25 in the world suddenly gets into your top 10. But to have the 73 in the world right now, Marketa Vondrousova was 91, and I think the previous week. So to have her easily in your top 10 and maybe even in your top 3, as I just said, is kind of wild. And it's just the Wild West nature of Wimbledon in particular. I think it is the outlier amongst the four slams and the three surfaces, where because what we've seen in the previous 2 years, Paolini against Krejcikova final last year, Vondrousova winning it in 2023. I have no idea, particularly Krejcikova and Vondrousova. I have no idea what the odds would have been, but they'd have been very long, and they probably would have been the 20th or 30th favourite going into the tournament.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think on paper, half the field could win it at this point. When you're going down that far.
I mean, I don't know, but I don't think, for example, just because 73 in the world can win it, I don't think 71 in the world, which is Renata Zarazua, can win it.
Yeah, she find it more difficult, but
right. But Grietmannen 70, by the way. Grietmannen has a Wimbledon run in her. That's not me saying she's going to win the title or even make the final, but she has a quarters. She has a quarter or semi-finals, yeah, for sure.
But then
Grietmannen had been in the quarterfinals at Wimbledon. Would not surprise me. Donna Vekic made the semis last year. Grietmannen beat her in the build-up. Now, Griet was very gracious. I spoke to Griet about this a couple of weeks ago, saying, wow, do you ever look at... And I said this to her a few weeks ago during the clay season, which is not maybe Griet's favourite part of the year. But I said to her, do you look at that going, wow, I beat Donna Vekic, 3 weeks before she's in the Wimbledon semi-final and arguably could have and should have been in the final. And Griet said, yeah, but I think Donna played better in Wimbledon she did against me that day. But I just thought that was a great match they played at the Libembo Open last year. But back to the point is Wild West.
Yeah, it is Wild West. And I think it's more coming across the formula I use to make my power rankings for Wimbledon, because I do bespoke ones per slam. Mm-hmm. I've got 55 people on the long list at the moment, which is ridiculous. They all register something on the formula. So, and that's for one reason or another. So I think that's what makes Wimbledon quite exciting to follow. Obviously, if you were going to go all full whole hog and just say, well, based on the pattern of the last two Wimbledon champions, you're going for a Czech player who's coming off an injury, and then suddenly you've got Karolina Muchova winning the title. Which
again, because of injuries,
crazy, but maybe this year a stretch because of the one-handed backhand.
Yeah, I think it's a stretch to put her in the 10 at all. But yeah, I think under normal circumstances she'd be comfortably in the 10. But listen, when it comes to a player coming back from injury, such as Muchova, with that scenario, it's really difficult to put her in the top 10. But if she's healthy, again, she's been in a Wimbledon quarterfinal before, and being in the semis or even in the final, because to me there's only two players. We're gonna come to some other points, and I don't want you to elaborate too much. But there's only two players that just have to be in the 10, and for me, probably have to be in your first two. But you don't have to answer. I'm not going to say who the two players are, by the way, because
I think it's fairly obvious who they are.
Probably, yeah. Well, I mean, one of the two is super, 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 super obvious. Maybe the second one for some people is more, debatable, but whatever.
Yeah. I think I know who my top three are, but I don't know what order they're going to be in. But I'm pretty sure two of them are in the same as yours.
Yeah, I know my top two and I know the order.
Yeah. I'm going to guess yours. Sabalenka, Rybakina.
Yeah.
Like that.
But after that, you've got to get Vondrousova in there. But you could put her anywhere, I think, between 3 and 8. I think I did it on Saturday. I think I had her at 8. But this is, as I say, as the match was unfolding. And with every game that she was reeling off against Sabalenka, she was going up another notch in that second set in particular.
I tell you what, though, talking about that, and at the moment, predicting, I think our main point here is predicting Wimbledon is crazy, but there are two very clear on paper favourites, not on favourite papers. I would, whilst we're on Sabalenka Rybakina, what a match they played in that quarterfinal. I know we're kind of jumping around a bit in the draw, but we may as well talk about it now. I was watching that match going, please, can we get a rematch of this at Wimbledon? Maybe even in the final. It didn't end in the way that I hoped it would, in the sense that kind of Rybakina kind of fading a little bit over the last few points, but certainly the quality was up there. Sabalenka pulling off that dramatic comeback was a great moment. especially for her coming off the French and saying, I can still win these fights. I think that was a big win for Sabalenka, but overall, the tennis was so good in that match.
You saw more of this than I did. I saw basically the tie break. And but I know all about the drama that took place before it. So I these are, as I say, my, the sort of standalone players. That doesn't mean, by the way, that one or either are going to make the final. As I say, even though they're just the obvious ones to include in your power rankings, either at the top or nearby, I still have huge doubts about both players. And that means, I probably wouldn't go as far as a first week exit, but a fourth round quarterfinal exit for either of these two players can just happen, because Rebecca, we've seen it a lot in the last sort of 3 years, really, but certainly the last 18 months, just suddenly having an off day or even an off hour, as she had in the semi-final against Krejcikova last year. And of course, Grand Slam tennis, that's you've done. Sabalenka, I think, from her perspective, I do agree about the quality, by the way, in that tiebreak, from when those 4 match points appear, when we mustn't forget the net cord that began the match point saves from Sabalenka, I think from 6-2. So that was the first one. And of course, the narrative would be very different if Rebecca had won this match, and who knows, maybe even gone on to win the tournament. But then the quality, I saw the match point saves, and they weren't crazy dramatic. I remember there was a return that went long. I think that might have been either the last match point save or could have been at 6-all. And I just thought, and there was another one where Rebecca was struggling to pick it up. Low bounce as well. I find the surface at Berlin a little less consistent than Wimbledon. I know Wimbledon evolves over the 2 weeks. In the first week, it's a very lush lawn with a slightly low bounce. It gets drier, of course, and you get a higher bounce. But I still find whichever week you look at, first or second, the bounce is at least consistent. But Rebecca, of course, with her height, that is one thing that can just catch her out. At that point, reminded me of that when she puts that in the net. I think that was one of the, not sure if that was one of the match point saves or not, but it was in that tie break. But yeah, significant. I think significant for Sabalenka. I think winning a super tight match maybe helps her at least move on from Roland Garros. I think the whole Berlin mission for her, one way or another, was to try and just, from my point of view at least, was just to move on from Roland Garros and the pain that she would have suffered from that final.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that's big for her psychologically, with her confidence. And let's face it, Sabalenka has unfinished business at Wimbledon. 2 tight semi-final losses, 2 tournaments that she had to miss through no control of her own. I think this is she's going to be motivated now at this tournament. I hope Rebecca is not too demotivated by this loss.
No, I think she'll be okay.
Yeah,
I think it's such a fine margin in that loss. And like I say, different circumstances, and arguably the better player, or at least, if it's 51-49, you could probably make a case for Rebecca and even more than Sabalenka, 6-2 up in that deciding set tiebreak. The margins are so tight that she doesn't. I saw some people say on Twitter about her losing some tight matches. I actually think that Rebecca is more in the conversation now than she was 6 weeks ago. With that title in because she's had a good spell. If you looked at it as a body of work and you didn't get too down by the losses, you look at winning Strasbourg, losing to Iga Swiatek in a match that could have easily gone either way, and you could make a case to say that Rebecca really could have and should have won it in terms of the fact she was up a set in a break, and then there was that whole smash. And then this tournament as well, they are in a way positives. It's probably quite difficult for her in the moment when she's losing these tight matches to take it, but I actually do take them a little bit more positively. Now I feel more comfortable about having a conversation about her potentially winning Wimbledon, whereas 6 weeks ago I would have found it more difficult.
Completely agree. I think I was much more comfortable with it after the French, and then this run in Berlin and pushing Sabalenka is big. Is big for her. I agree with you. Those match points, I think it was a mixture. I think Sabalenka definitely did enough to save those match points. It wasn't all on Rebecca's racket. So, there's a good reason why she's one of the leading contenders to win the title still. So going
Just, I know you probably want to get to the finalist, right? That's your next port of call. Am I reading your mind well enough there?
Yeah, you're reading my mind well.
Just before we do, okay, I just want to, because we will then come to the finalist, because it'll probably be in my list. I'm just going from Vondrousova at 73 in the world, and I'm just going to read out a bunch of players who I think on any given day can surprise and can win matches on grass, and therefore can go deep. And by deep, let's go quarterfinals or beyond. Blinkova is in that conversation. Bronzetti is not. Jabeur is maybe not Parks, even though she's got an incredible serve, but yeah, probably not. Maybe Osaka. Maybe I'm dreaming a bit there in terms of her form right now, and obviously she's not got great grass court pedigree. Daniel Collins. Say again?
She won today, though.
Did she? Good for her.
Yeah, 2 breaks.
Cool. Daniel Collins just can blast her way through a draw and yeah, be in a quarterfinals for sure. I'm not predicting it because I think she's a while away since she played her best tennis. But yeah,
she's not playing grass yet.
Sonny Cartal, can she have a wild, crazy 10 days? And Lulu Sun did last year. And by the way, she's here on this list too. Tatiana Maria, Potapova, Veronika Kudermetova, who I actually predicted to make, I think, the final in 23, if not the final, the semi-finals. Yastremska, Katie Bolter, Emma Raducanu. Belinda Bencic, is she fit?
She didn't. She struggled a bit today. She first match back for a while, loses 1 and 2 to Alexandrova. So I don't think she might not be fit. Definitely a little bit rusty.
Can she get to a Wimbledon quarterfinal? I think, yeah.
Yes. She nearly did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's some players I would say I'm basically looking at a less than 3 or 4% chance, for example, for somebody such as, I'm probably not going to put Leylah Fernandez in these sort of Wild West, they could be a Wimbledon semi-finalist conversations. But I would put Yulia Putintseva. She might not shake your hand at the net in defeat, but she, or at least in a pleasant way. But I saw much more, and by the way, I am digressing here in terms of coming to the Berlin finalist in a moment. But with that handshake, I just want to say something. Somebody mentioned this on Twitter, and I forget who it was, so apologies, but I completely agree with them in that every player on tour has offered a swift handshake. And I don't have a big problem with it. And Maria Sakkari, for sure, has had some crushing losses in recent years, particularly in opening rounds at slams, where I'm sure she's just barely touched the player's hand. So, that's my take on that. And of course, the player at world number 33 right now, after a 16 placing jump, Jinyu Wang. Yeah, can she make the Wimbledon semi-finals? Absolutely. Should she have won the Berlin title, Nick? Of course, she had a great run. So you look at it again, and I think maybe towards the end of the match, she started to smile a bit, and she just thought what an incredible 7 days she'd had coming through qualifying and getting to the final and shocking a few players en route. Yeah. But there were chances in that final.
Yeah, there were definitely chances. I mean, you don't clearly it went 3 sets. I still think Vondrousova was the deserved champion, and the story I think that was the better one of the two. But yeah, no offense to Wang Xinyu, who had a fantastic tournament. She as I said, I think her run's gonna be remembered for who she beat and how close she made that final. Not bad for a first main tour final. And I don't think she's got some pedigree on grass. 4th round at Wimbledon last year. She beat Pegula. Right. So I don't think Wang Xinyu is out of the conversation at all. I think she is very much in it. And she's got a lot of positive things to look back on this tournament. And I think she's a little bit, she always goes under the radar, but I think she's a lot better than a lot of people give her credit for.
Okay, yeah. Just trying to remember that match she had against Pegula last year. Yeah, can you remember?
She won in 3, I think. Second round. Pegula had her chances, but Wang was very good.
I think I've got her resume in terms of slams here. Quite solid, really. I mean, there's couple of second rounds there in Australia, French Open third rounds, and some fourth rounds as well. Yeah, but I want to just come back to the final. As I say, because of the excellence that she'd shown for the previous 7 days and some of the players that she knocked out, that's what she, her team, and I'm sure many others are reminding her of. But in terms of the final, and why because I watched it, if not from start to finish, certainly 80-90% of it. So the first set, so that's the big one. That's the real big one that she recovered from in terms of losing it, because that would have been tough for many players to recover from. First of all, she's serving for it twice, and she doesn't get any set points. She sort of, both times, maybe she got tight because it wasn't close in a way. She didn't get set points in either of those two service games. But then she has 6 set points in the tie break. And we're not talking about, there were some clutch moments from Vondrousova at various really important moments when Vondrousova served big at big moments in the match, saving break points, for example. But there was a few rallies that those 6 points were on, and the forehand from her for the first hour of the match was just unbelievable. Hitting winners from neutral positions, skidding off the surface, of course, as it can do on grass. And she was playing so well. And she recovered because she actually goes down an early break in the second set. And somebody in the live chat during the watch along did say, I think this is going to just sort of, even before the beginning of the second set, I think it might have been Jake who asked me, do you see this being sort of one of those incredible first sets? But Vondrousova moves on to win this pretty comfortably, like 6-3 or 6-2 or something like that. And I was like, that's how I do see it happening. Vondrousova goes up an early break and you're like, well, there you go. I think it was 1-love. It might well have been the first game, if not the first and the second game of the sixth set. But she fights back, and then they're nip and tuck until 4-5 Vondrousova serving, and she gets it then. Unlike the first set when she couldn't serve it out, it's one of those, maybe the pressure's off, and she hit some really clean winners, including an unbelievable return. So she wins that second set, but for whatever reason, she couldn't get going in the third set. I think she went down an early break and really got close to coming back on terms, and in the end, it was obviously a double break that did for her. But the first set. That's where I'm just thinking, wow, 6 set points, serving for it twice. That'll be tough for her.
Tell you what, Berlin just keeps giving us
good finals. Yeah, I thought about that. Yeah, last year obviously Pegula, Kalinskaya, delivering a match that didn't make our first 5 in terms of matches of the year, but was very much in the conversation. May have just missed out, maybe because of the magnitude of the occasion, WTA 500. I think also maybe quality at times, but was very much in the conversation. If we went for 10 matches, probably would have made it.
Although I worked as actually that match, I did a whole tried to do a quality measure for some of the matches of the year last year, and that Pegula Kalinskaya final actually had the lowest percentage of unforced errors when you combined the two players together over the course of the whole match.
Sure, I think there's various metrics, and that's not one I would ignore. But as we saw from the men's singles final at Roland Garros, which I think you and I would both agree, and you were there for 6 hours of it on the stream, despite, I think there was some stats about more unforced errors than winners from both players, I think. Certainly the unforced errors to winners ratio didn't look great on paper, but that's not, doesn't mean it wasn't one of the greatest Grand Slam finals of all time. And by the way, there will be an episode coming out, and people are thinking, wow, that interview with Steve Flink happened last Wednesday, I think it was, but it's a bit of an epic one, so it's taken a while. There's dribs and drabs being fed out there that are out there in shorts and other clips as well, but that will be out shortly. But anyway, I want to come back.
I have been waiting with bated breath for that, because I'm watching that as soon as I get like a couple of hours.
Audio is going to be out, and I thought about splitting it because it's such an epic. But the audio is coming out tomorrow. I was humming and high whether to split it, and it's just because it's 5 days later now, and it's more than 2 weeks since that final took place. That's going to be out tomorrow. I've already got that scheduled.
You can see, right?
Yeah, it was just the men's singles final, because I wanted to put that Roland Garros final between Sinner and Alcaraz into a context, and there's 1 or 2 women's finals at Roland Garros that certainly maybe would rank above it. But I found it just for trying to get a little bit closer to objectivity. Now it's impossible, I know, but just to make it a lot easier in a way. I mean, we spent an hour and 3/4 just talking about men's Grand Slam singles finals. Can you imagine if we'd thrown in the women as well, and maybe even thrown in Grand Slams? And who knows, greatest matches of all time, we'd still be talking about it now. Anyway, that is for another day. Anything you want to add in terms of these two finalists?
No, I think we've kind of covered the main kind of stories from this match. Like, yeah, really, it was a good final, great runs. I think Wang Junyu, I was impressed by the way she beat Samsonova in the semis, given Samsonova was looking pretty good. And of course, she's proving that win over Coco Gauff wasn't a fluke. Again, we're kind of talking about two players who are proving that big achievements for them weren't accidents. And I didn't see the Gauff match, but I think clearly Coco maybe wasn't her best, but Wang was pretty good. And I guess for me with that result, my first thought was, does Coco need more matches before Wimbledon? She doesn't seem to think so. She's going straight to practice at SW19. She's not tried to get any last minute wildcards into any other grass court tournaments. So she seems to at least be publicly confident that that one match was enough of a warm up for her. But given her history with maybe having a bit of a ceiling when it comes to grass, who knows? What do you make of that, John?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things to say about Coco. First of all, there was a chat on Tennis Channel that did the rounds on social media last week. And it was, I think, the placing of Paolini, for example, and Coco and a few others. I think it was in the odds. They were looking at the betting odds and stuff. And I think it was Andy Roddick, who I think he was sort of bothered by, I think, Paolini not being in the top 8 and Coco being where she wasn't. I think Coco on grass is still very much a work in progress. Now, sometimes you do see with players that are very, very highly ranked, one year they just get it or it just clicks, and maybe this year will be her year. But I think when it comes to winning Wimbledon, the other 3 slams, French Open in particular, I think there's a clip out of one of our YouTube shorts that it was inevitable one day that Coco Gauff would inevitable would be a strong word, but whatever. It was very likely that Coco Gauff would win the French Open one day. And why not this year, especially with Iga being out of form? Whereas I don't think that's anywhere near the kind of nature we have for her winning Wimbledon. Her winning Wimbledon would be a much bigger shock to me than Vondrousova winning it, for example.
I can see why. I think her base level on the surface is still pretty good. It's just
what's her Wimbledon record in recent years? I mean, I just remember her first round loss.
So of her 5 Wimbledon visits, 3 fourth rounds, 1 third round, and 1 first round.
Right. Okay. Good. Well done.
So she's made the second week 3 out of 5 times.
So you say 3 fourth rounds, is it?
Yeah, 3 fourth rounds.
Okay, that's slightly better than I thought.
And of those, 4 of those losses were to Americans. No, not American. Okay. No, sorry. What am I talking about? 3 of them were the last 3 have been to Americans, being Kenin, Anisimova, and Navarro. And then her first couple were to Wimbledon champions, Halep and Kerber. So, I think she's one of those players that, she'll get she has the potential to get a decent run together. Yeah. And then on her day will beat someone. But then if someone else is having their day, then they'll beat her on grass. And it won't be necessarily.
She's not won a grass court title either.
No.
And obviously she loses her first match in Berlin last week. So I think if we could do a direct comparison with Vondrousova, it would be a much bigger surprise to me if Coco Gauff wins Wimbledon, just because Vondrousova's won Wimbledon, so that's one category that she outscores in Gauff, albeit that was 2 years ago. If we look at grass court titles, Vondrousova's won 2 and Gauff has not won any. And also, if we look at just immediate recency bias, again, Vondrousova wins the title in Berlin, and in a way, the more, especially after she beats Sabalenka, or when she sort of starts playing well against Sabalenka, you're like, oh, I think Vondrousova could well win this title. Whereas, you know, it was even though it was only 48 hours after Coco Gauff had lost to Wong, it was like Gauff losing to Wong didn't actually surprise me that much. Yeah, didn't surprise me hugely because, as I say, I don't see. I'd be surprised if Gauff won Wimbledon. I wouldn't be that surprised if Vondrousova won it.
I think she's in the mix. I think it would be the same level of surprise for me. Okay. For the two of them.
So are there only? Okay, I'll leave it because I think we've spoken a lot about Wimbledon and all sorts of stuff. Plus, we've got Nottingham to talk about and a couple of other tournaments to come, and maybe even one or two more players. Are there any players that you've got in your mind that you'd like to talk about in Berlin? By the way.
No, I think Coco was the main one I wanted to make sure we covered.
I've got one I want to talk about, if that's
go for it.
On Jabeur.
Oh yeah, who's on my screen now? By the way, I'm watching her play Maya Joint in the first round of Eastbourne.
And what's the score?
Currently the score is 4-2 Jabeur with a break. Jabeur has come from a break down. She went down and she got broken the first game, and then she's gone on a bit of a run. So at the minute, the grass court experience is winning out against the Australian teenager.
Well, let me tell you, echoes of her first round, at least in Berlin, because she was. I remember that going to the scoreboard in that match, which would have been against Dollarhide, and she was down a break, and it might even have got to like 4-2, I think. But she was down a break at it wasn't like 1-love or 2-love. It was a bit further on in that first set. So about 4-2. And I was like, oh, Ons, this is your moment. This is your surface. This is a title you've won in the past. And if she'd had a great 2025 and stuff like that, and she lost in the round of 32, fine. By the way, I don't know if she saved match points, but she came through an epic qualifier against Jacquemont that she wins 4-6, 7-5, 7-6. But that third set tiebreak was 13-11 in Berlin. So I don't know the exact details, but 13-11 normally suggests a match point or two was saved. But maybe someone in the live chat will know the exact nature of that. But yeah, so when she's down anyway, a break against Dollarhide, and I just see it, and I'm busy commentating on probably Alex Ayala, but I'm not sure. Actually, I think it was I was commentating on Leylah Fernandez. But coming back to that, and I was like, oh dear. And it was like, okay, there's a long way to go in this match, but this doesn't feel good, and it hasn't felt good for Ons for quite a while. She comes back, just like today, it looks like, at least in terms of the first set, goes on to win that in straight sets. And then beats Paolini 1-3, last year's Wimbledon finalist. And okay, loses to Vondrousova in the quarterfinals, but there's 4 grass court wins there, some in very different natures, obviously including that qualifier against Jacquemont, beating some pretty impressive players in the form of, say, Paolini in the round of 16, and losing to the eventual winner in straight sets. But yeah, I think there's something for Ons to go, yep, okay, I'm a little bit off where I was in 22 and 23, but who knows?
I agree. I think she has every right to be confident in the service. I think she can still beat anyone on this surface with the game that she's got when she's confident and she's hitting well. And I would definitely be putting her in the list of people that I would be looking at. Hey, look, maybe she's going to hope that she gets Veronika Kudermetova in the first round.
Yeah, Kwiatkowski beat Kudermetova in the first round last year.
Yes, in a really, really messy match.
And I think Vondrousova was tight as well, wasn't it, in 23? I know Vondrousova won it, of course, but
no, it was 2 sets.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. I had
Kudermetova in 23. Sorry, I don't remember. Maybe it was.
I thought it was close, but I had Kudermetova getting to I'm pretty sure I put it to getting to the final. She loses in the first round. It looks like a terrible sort of suggestion, but of course that person who beat it went on to win the title. But yeah, Jabeur, yeah, things to more than clutch at, things to be reasonably optimistic about, I would suggest, for winning some matches, and then we'll see where you're at, because that's kind of where a lot of people who've won the title, by the way, in the last couple, or the two people who won the title in the last couple of years have probably been like, well, against Kudametova in round one, like let's get through that one and let's win it, and then who knows, and then propels them to the title.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. So yeah, everyone go and watch where Kudametova's drawn in there. I mean, like I'm going to be watching that draw for multiple reasons. And just a quick plug, there will be a draw reaction as it happens on this channel on Friday at 10 a.m. local time.
We smashed the 17,000 subscriber count as well over the weekend. Actually, I think it was might have been this morning or late last night. So,
amazing. Yeah, we're just climbing higher and higher on the YouTube rankings. If you're listening as back on audio, then please subscribe to us on there as well.
And of course, check us out. If you can't tune in on the YouTubes, then check us out on your Spotify's and your Apples and whatever else you can get your audio stuff from. That's me in Berlin done, by the way. I don't know about you.
Yeah, same for me. So I think we should probably mention Nottingham. And Nottingham, for me, the main point of interest was who was going to steal that last seeded spot at Wimbledon, because Yulia Putintseva was very vulnerable. She was a little bit of a way off points-wise from the others. Like the ones above, like they could in theory be upset, but it would take a few things to fall into place for that. And then essentially we got to like the quarterfinals, and there were like 3 players left in Nottingham that could steal that 32nd spot. And Wang Jinyu had the potential to throw a spanner in the works with it by maybe winning Berlin and then basically saying, no, none of you are getting that. And then it ended up being one potential player who could do it. And she did, because McCartney Kessler, by winning Nottingham, snatches that 32nd seeded place at Wimbledon.
Got it.
Ahead of Wang Jinyu, because Wang Jinyu then lost that Berlin final. So,
and did you say Putintseva is seeded or not?
No, she now just been pushed down the rankings by.
She won Nottingham last year, right?
Sorry,
did she win Nottingham last year? Putintseva? Oh no, she won the.
She won Nottingham. No, she won Birmingham last year. Nottingham was won by Katie Bolter. So Katie Bolter was going for the three-peat.
Yeah.
And potentially that 32nd seed spot. Also, if Bolter had won that three-peat, she would have been the first player ever to defend to win 3 consecutive WTA T50s at the same location. But that's a record that's still yet to happen. But it wasn't to be for Katie. She lost to Kessler, who then beat Shramkova, who was another contender for her, and then went on to beat Diana Yastremska in the final, who was having a pretty good run, but Ivan Lendl-esque, the grass allergy. Apparently, she has a grass allergy.
Ran
out of steam in the final, as Lendl would always do at Wimbledon. Would always get in the way in the end, but made it close, made it a very tight 2-set match, relatively. But yeah, McCartney Kessler now has won 2 250 titles this year. That's another multiple champion on the board. And she's won 3 in the last 12 months. And she's gone from pretty much nowhere to being seeded at a slam within a year, and is very much the hot young prospect on the WTA tour right now. Another college graduate making her way through. And I know at least 1 or 2 of our American friends who are very excited about her and what she can do. And I guess the next question is, when's that slam breakthrough coming?
25 years old. I'm leaning on you a lot for Nottingham, really, even if it's just in terms of results, but never been past a second round at a slam. And she made the second round in Australia, and not been past a first round
on the main tour for the last 12 months.
Right. Fair enough. But there we go. So that's obviously her slam results in the last couple of years, or 18 months. Yeah. I haven't seen enough of her, particularly on grass, to start thinking honestly where she could be. I do see that. What I will say is this: I see a lot of players, and this maybe comes back in a way to Coco Gauff, and maybe as a positive for her. I see a lot of players have some wretched grass court warm-ups, and I've seen some other people win titles pre-Wimbledon, and then suddenly, lose in first or second round, and you sort of go, oh, that's the person who won Nottingham, or that's the person who was in the final in Berlin, or so. I'm just waiting a little bit before suggesting that McCartney Kessler, just purely because, as I say, how crazy it is, could be, as I say, in the semi-finals at Wimbledon. But I'm certainly not expecting that. Let's say that.
No, I'm not expecting anything else like that. I think she's still going to make. I'm just interested to see how many matches she can win. Like, she has one Grand Slam match win on her record. She's having a sneaky good year, as Gina's saying in the live chat. By the way, I don't know which is more impressive, by the way, the fact that she won Nottingham or that she won Nottingham having survived a 3-hour epic with Beatrice Haddad-Maia in 1-1. That match was...
Oh, wow.
It was a 7-5, 6-7, 7-5 win. And it was a Beatrice Haddad-Maia match. So obviously it went on for ages.
So she had this is last week, is it?
Yeah, this is in Nottingham. Yeah. So this, she clearly had enough gas in the tank to then go and fight all of her other rivals.
She had a pretty epic match with Katie Bolter as well. I mean, okay, I don't know exactly how long it took, but I can see the scoreline. It was a fairly lengthy one. But yeah, so she beats Haddad-Maia in 3 sets. She beats Zhu 1-4. Then she beat Bolter in 3 sets.
But was down a break in the third, according to Brenner, who's in the live chat.
Was she? So
yeah.
Down a break
this was a real comeback run from McCartney Kessler.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's say, but in terms of bigger picture stuff in Wimbledon, I'm just keeping my powder dry for now. That's not me being cautious. It's just I don't think I've seen enough. And like I said, I've seen a lot of people win titles around sort of Europe on grass in the build-up, and then suddenly it's one of those results. It's like, and the Nottingham winner went out today, and it's like, oh, okay, and the Berlin, there's no grass court title winner. And I don't think Vondrousova will fall into that category, but just someone who's done really well, like a Kessler, or maybe someone who wins the title in Eastbourne this week, or maybe Wang Jinyu as well. Someone like that just suddenly goes out first round at Wimbledon. It's like, oh, okay, so maybe we should ignore those grass court tournaments in the build-up. Yeah,
I'm not necessarily predicted to go deep. I'm saying whether she can. I agree with you. Odds are maybe not, maybe a first round exit is possible. But regardless, McCartney Kessler's had a fantastic week, and it just keeps getting better the more you talk about this Nottingham run. And it's a good 250 to win. So we'll see what happens. Seeded at Wimbledon, maybe that makes it a nice open section for someone to come through. But yeah, I think that's all we need to mention about Nottingham. I think it was an interesting tournament. It was a good opportunity for some people to get some grass court wind under their belt ahead of Wimbledon, but also the build-up week, which is now at the moment. Obviously, we've got a couple of tournaments that started. Bad Homburg started yesterday. We're starting to get a picture of who's going to be in the last 16 now. And we've also got Eastbourne happening, which is what I'm watching at the moment. By the way, on Jabeur got broken back. It is now deuce on the Jabeur serve at 4-5.
Okay.
So Maya Joint potentially 2 points away from taking the first set against Jabeur. Having been down a break. That's a very good... Oh, no, it's a wide serve. So you've got Eastbourne up already, John. So Eastbourne's very much, you can see already, Brit Central. Emma Raducanu is seeded. We'll probably be seeing how the young talents like Mimi Zhu and others who've maybe got Wimbledon wildcards, whether they can put that run together. I know Fran Jones won today. By the way, Daria Kasatkina is having a horrendous grass court season. She is now 0-3 on grass.
Yeah, that is noteworthy because obviously she won a grass court title. She won this one, didn't she, last year?
Won at Eastbourne, yeah. So she's going to drop a bit points-wise. Still going to be seated 16th at Wimbledon, but
Krejcika's in the draw as well. Interesting. Krejcika against Harriet Dart. Interesting first round.
Could be a tough one for Krejcikova.
I was going to say, do you think she could lose that? Do you think Krejcika? So you think Dart could win it? Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I think Dart has that ability to really grind and scrap and make things difficult, particularly if you're kind of match rusty like Krejcikova. I do think Krejcikova maybe has more consistency if she turns it on that can outplay Dart, but I do think that I wouldn't be shocked if Dart won that match. That's for sure. So, but like this Eastbourne draw is pretty open anyway. I'm not predicting a winner is kind of tough. And even then, winning Eastbourne is a bit of a poison chalice. The only two players in history that successfully won Eastbourne and won Wimbledon in the same season are Martina Navratilova and Jana Novotná. So,
wow, we're going back quite some time, yeah.
Yeah, we're going back away. And it's now downgraded, so it's like it doesn't even have the same kind of quality of field as it used to. But nevertheless, it's still got some very interesting players in there. You've got Yelena Ostapenko getting her grass court season off to a start. So I'm interested to see whether she hits the ground running or whether she's an Ostapenko, crashes that first round, and then that means making second week of Wimbledon. So yeah, few intriguing points to cover for this Eastbourne draw. Is there anything you're spotting in there, John?
Yeah, because I think I'm also maybe just getting ahead, especially as the fact that Jabeur is in a dogfight right now. A potential Raducanu second round against Jabeur, I think, could be a lot of fun. On the topic of Raducanu, I saw her talking about her back issues today and not necessarily filling me or maybe her fans with confidence in terms of the way that she's trying to deal with it and spasms. And she sort of finished her sentence or sentences of, well, that's just how it is. And obviously she's playing this week, so rest is not clearly on the agenda for her in terms of being. I think if she was thinking that rest would possibly help, then I think she probably would skip this week and just make sure she's ready for Wimbledon. But yeah, this has been an issue that flared up, of course, during that loss to Qinwen Zheng in Queens about 10 days ago. And yes, it's something certainly worth monitoring, I would say. She's playing Anne Lee tomorrow. I'm just getting up there head-to-head as well. It looks like they have not played each other, at least according to this, what I see on the WTA website. Yeah, so they've not played each other before, but it would be nice for Emma and Ons. I just think it's a nice matchup, especially on grass. If we did get potentially Emma against Ons. I don't know how Ons is getting on right now, by the way. But
it's just, I think Ons is just held, for 6-5. So just coming up.
Okay, nice.
No, joint held for 6-5. So Ons is going to serve 10 set again.
But yeah, Raducanu, of course, who's I think if she's probably a little bit more than sneaky good, I think slightly better than sneaky good year, as in like nothing Emma Raducanu does is sneaky because she's on the media radar so much that that obviously it's just not possible for her to be sneaky in a way. But she's if her name wasn't Emma Raducanu, you would just be going, oh, that player ranked that place in the world is having a sneaky good year, because she's just getting some good results wherever she goes. And clay, I think, will never be a surface where she's strongest on, and yet she had some decent runs and some decent performances. I felt on the clay this year, and the losses she had were fine. You know, losing to Swiatek in Paris and losing to Coco in Rome, I think it was, after having some other good results. But yeah, just something to keep an eye on is that back issue. But if the back is okay, I expect her to at least get to the second round in Eastbourne.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, the back is the main thing. Clearly from what she's saying, it's a long-term issue that she's going to always have to deal with. And she's got to manage it as best she can. At the minute, she feels like it's managed enough that she can play.
She did pull out of Berlin, of course, with that back injury.
She did. I also thought Berlin might have been a bit of an ambitious tournament for her to play, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound ridiculous because Berlin, London is not exactly a huge journey, but just it's a bit different to jumping on a train or jumping in a car and going a couple of hours down the motorway. You know, she's obviously going to get on a plane and go there. It was also the nearest one in proximity to that tournament. Probably what she was also maybe even thinking before Queens, depending on how things panned out there, is enter both Berlin and Eastbourne, and depending on how Berlin panned out would then impact Eastbourne. As it turns out, she probably thought, you know what, pulling out of Berlin, I've still got Eastbourne to play a couple of matches at, and that'll be okay. But yeah, just these comments, I'm just trying to see if I can find them. They were in the Express, I think, today, the British newspaper. So yeah, just something to keep an eye on and yeah, be a little concerned about, I would suggest.
Yeah, but the back is fine, and she can get through it. She should beat Lee, although Lee is a tricky opponent, I will say. I think I remember her making one of the Melbourne Somerset tournaments in 2021 in the COVID year against Contivate, and they didn't actually play the match. They had to cancel it, possibly to do with weather. That's probably been the highlight of her career so far. But I could see Lee maybe putting up a bit of a fight, but Raducanu, a healthy Raducanu, confident Raducanu should win that match. And then we'll see whether that sets up a match with Ons Jabeur or Maya Joint, which that match is very much hanging in the balance as we record this.
I've got those quotes and I do want to share them with you. So excuse me for indulging here, but Raducanu overcoming phobia, and it's a phobia of needles apparently,
Yes.
to help her with this back issue. And yeah, so the first thing that
I've seen this story, see this on something else. Maybe the
so
BBC.
she might have highlighted the needles before, but these are pretty fresh because she is talking about the current back issues that she had. I'm still managing it. I have good days and bad days with it. I trained a fair bit last week in London and it was good. I was getting a lot of treatment, then woke up pretty stiff at the weekend, took a day off, then trained yesterday and today, but it needs a lot of work and it is up and down. So I'm just trying to manage it as best I can. I'm doing everything, needles, soft tissue, some muscle stimulation stuff, taping, everything, but it's just ongoing. It seems to be okay today. Like I say, day by day, it seems to be. Regarding the needle thing, at the start of the year, I was so scared of needles. It was my biggest phobia. That was the only way I was going to be able to play in Australia. But yeah, I think I gave myself Friday night. This is just recently to be upset and to be frustrated at I guess not playing Berlin perhaps. But then from Saturday, I took Saturday, Sunday off. Oh, it's in terms of the flaring up again. But I actually had a good week of practicing last week. So that is the Emma Raducanu health update at least. So that's something to keep an eye on.
On Jabeur update, she has just saved set point. She's got a point to take it into a tiebreak in the first set. So, John, are you happy to move on from Respawn? Going to say yes. That's a yes. So, Bad Homburg is the other tournament happening this week. Again, we're a bit further into Bad Homburg. We're probably going to be wrapping up the opening rounds tomorrow and then starting the last 16, which is where things are going to get really, really interesting. And we've got a bit more of interest in there. We've got Jessica Pegula as the top seed, Jasmine Paolini is the second seed, Miran Andreeva is seeded 3, and hoping to get her. Like Pegula and Andreeva are definitely going to be hoping to bounce back from going out in their first matches in Berlin and try and get some grass court wins under their belt. You've got Iga Swiatek playing as well as the 4th seed. She's got a bye and she's going to be playing Victoria Azarenka, who won today, having come through against Laura Siegemund in straight sets. That is a matchup that Swiatek historically likes. We will see whether that translates over to the grass and whether Azarenka's experience will help her there. But I do like Iga's chances in that matchup. For that one, it's going to be a big Grand Slam champions clash anyway. For that, obviously, US Open champion versus nearly US Open champion on multiple occasions.
What's the head-to-head, you know? Those two?
Pretty heavily in favour of Swiatek. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's Swiatek is very far ahead in it.
I'm going to get it.
Go as far as I don't think Azarenka's ever beaten her. No, she has. Azarenka beat her in
once,
2020 US Open when she reached the final that year.
Okay. Yeah, I've just got the head-to-head now. Yeah, 1-4.
Yeah, but Swiatek's won every match since.
Yeah, that was the US Open 2020 straight sets win for Azarenka, but then it's been consecutive wins on hard, clay, hard, and hard for Swiatek. Never met on grass. I think Azarenka came through qualifying. I could be wrong, so that might. That obviously her form has really gradually sort of gone down this last sort of 12 months or so in terms of where she's in the rankings as well. But yeah, that might be. I think if Iga had a couple of matches on the grass, I might feel differently. But yeah, I don't know. She's been practicing in Bad Homburg, I know, Iga. So I don't know. This is a really tough one to call. I might go Azarenka. I'd go Azarenka in 3.
I can see why, because Azarenka's got some form. It's grass, which Iga doesn't like as much. So I can completely see your logic. And I don't normally favour head-to-heads in the way I'm thinking about things. I'm just wondering about whether, like, I can see it going in different ways. I'm relatively confident of a Swiatek victory in this one, based on wanting to hit the ground running, doesn't usually crash out in first rounds. So, well, not technically first round, but first match for her. That's how I see that one going. Pretty optimistic about Iga Swiatek's chances. What else is in? I think we're just sort of starting to piece together things happening in the draw in Bad Homburg. But for me, it's about, can certain players get things going? Svitolina did on Sunday. She won her first grass court match of the year, which is good for her. And again, she's one of those ones to watch potentially at a Wimbledon. Kruger
Hadid Meyer should be playing the winner of that one. Hadid Meyer still has a big Wimbledon in her at some point, I think. I remember David Law from the Tennis Podcast had her in the final. I'm going to say 2022, but I can't remember the exact.
It was, but that was because she'd won Nottingham, Birmingham, and got to the quarters of Eastbourne. So she'd run an insane streak of grass court wins and then crashes out first round.
That's right, she went out first round. Yeah, Sakkari, who beat her best friend Putintseva today in straight sets, gets Belinda Bencic going down 1 and 2. Okay, so just coming back to her, but she'll get Alexandrova. We already touched on Azarenka and Swiatek. Noskova, Vekic, I mean, Noskova to some extent, but Vekic, could repeat maybe her heroics at Wimbledon last year. Miran Draper against Clara Towson, exciting as well.
That was a revenge win for Vekic as well, because Schneider beat her not only in the first round of Berlin. I'm doing you, John. Beat her in Berlin last week, and then they immediately meet each other in the first round of Bad Homburg. But it was a rematch of the Bad Homburg final where Schneider beat Vekic. So Vekic has got I think that's a big confidence win there, and I think she might fancy a chance against Noskova, who can be a bit up and down, but then so can Vekic. So I predict that one's probably going to be a little bit messy.
All right, let's have one more word. Who's winning Bad Homburg?
Oh, good grief. Literally could be anyone. I'm
going Alina Svitolina. There we go. Just fairly spontaneous, but good win against Elise Mertens. Yeah, Svitolina. This does feel like a tournament that Svitolina could win. Not an easy draw, but
no, definitely not.
Do you want me to share some more names with you? I mean, you obviously got Azarenka there, Swiatek.
Yeah, I don't know the draw is the problem. So, yeah.
Pagula. Tough first round or tough first match for Pagula, but
Siniakova. Yeah, that's going to be difficult. Siniakova's won it before. Do you know what? No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go with Iga Swiatek, given she's had a very topsy-turvy year, and if she struggled on everything else, that might mean that she does well on grass. So that is the closest to logic you're going to get right now.
Fair enough. All right, I think that's it. Unless you got anything else you want to add?
Nothing else to add. So thanks for doing this with me, John. So, John, what have we got coming up to look forward to on the channel? I usually do this bit as like a monologue, but since you're the one who's planning everything, you can tell everyone what we've got to coming up, look forward to this week.
Yeah, we'll have a couple of watch-alongs for sure, maybe even more. Of course, we'll be doing a watch-along for Alex Ayala, whoever she plays on Wednesday. I think Ostapenko is the potential opponent, of course, if she comes to her first-round match. We'll have the Wimbledon draw, which I think is on Friday morning. Correct me if I'm wrong. We'll have a pretty decent team for that. 3, 4, 5 people, I think, will be joining us for that. So, yeah, make sure you tune in for that, because that will give us a huge indication as to who's going to be winning the 2 titles, at least on the singles. But we will have, I'm sure, have a quick look at the doubles too. We've got your power rankings coming out. I think I'll do a power rankings for the men. If it's not me, then someone will be doing it. And yeah, many more. And we'll have WTA Weekly and ATP Weekly, which will probably be a bit earlier than normal. They normally come out on Sunday or Monday, but we'll probably do them on Saturday or Sunday at the latest next week. Looking ahead, of course, to Wimbledon itself, sort of a few days after the draw has taken place.
Yeah, this is the power ranking that tends to drive John mad because he gets it at the last possible minute from me because I need to see who's won as many grass matches as possible before I make any predictions. But yeah, looking forward to all of that. I'm definitely going to have the draw show on and be listening in whilst I'm at work, as I hope a lot of you will be too. Or maybe you fancy waking up early and just listening to us whilst you decide whether or not to, whilst you're enjoying your morning coffee. If you're in the United States. Hopefully it's daylight enough for that. And then we'll be back. We'll do a full WTA Weekly episode where we'll do a proper draw breakdown for Wimbledon, TBC on when that comes out. But I'm looking forward to that a lot. I'm really looking forward to this draw. And I hope you are too. So enjoy the tennis this week. See you next time. In the meantime, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.